Hello everybody, it's 12 o'clock and it's time to start today's webinar. I want to welcome you to our third monthly webinar following the State of Europe's Forests Report of 2025. The title of today's webinar is Efficient Use of Resources in the Future Bioeconomy, How to Make Trade-offs. But first, I want to give some key findings about bioeconomy from the SOF report. So, forests, one cornerstone for the bioeconomy. European forests are central to the shift towards sustainable and circular bioeconomy based on renewable resources. And the products from the forest will also contribute to sustainability because they're fossil-free. And it also supports many jobs and provides essential foundation for rural development and development in society. And also national frameworks are increasingly aligned with initiatives in the EU. We have a rather fresh bioeconomy or updated bioeconomy strategy from the European Union. Of course, there are some challenges that we will discuss today. Many things call upon the forests, and there's competing demands for the resources and the functions in the forest. It's highlighting the need for integrated and coherent policy frameworks that recognize trade-offs while maximizing the synergies in the bioeconomy. And we're lucky today to have experts on the webinar. This webinar will be moderated by Dr. Camilla Widmark, Associate Professor from Swedish University of Agricultural Sciences. In addition to Camilla, we will have some other guests. That is Baptiste Menier, Head of Bioeconomy Office in the Ministry of Agriculture from France. And we have Dr. Georg Rappold, Director, Federal Ministry of Agriculture, Forestry, Climate and Environmental Protection, Regions and Water Management in Austria. And we have Linda Reinholdsson, Deputy in the Ministry from Rural Affairs and Infrastructure in Sweden. You're very welcome to this webinar. I'm honored to have you here and that you've taken the time. And with that, I will hand over to Camilla that will moderate this 1 hour webinar. Floor is yours, Camilla.
Thank you very much, Johan, and a warm welcome to everyone listening in. And we, as Johan said, welcome questions and comments, and please write those in the chat and then we'll approach those separately as Johan explained. So first of all, I will give a brief introduction and maybe hopefully give some ideas for discussions future during this seminar. And then we will have separate presentations from Baptiste, from Georg and from Linda. And then we will finalize this webinar by having a panel discussion connecting to a few questions that we will approach. So the title of the seminar, then a webinar, is Efficient Use of Resources in the Future Bioeconomy, How to Make Trade-offs. And this is a very interesting topic close to my heart because it deals with both policy and economics, with how we use resources, etc. So I will give you a glimpse of some research findings and some question marks from my side. So first of all, and of course, we focus on the forest here, but we could easily change the word forest to any natural resource whatsoever. But we use the forest for many different purposes, as you can see in the illustration here. There are 4 different ecosystem services from using the forest for recreational values, for hunting, for harvesting timber, but it also might be that we use it for pollination purposes, biodiversity, climate change mitigation, So there are many different ways to use the forest. The challenge is that we always need to make trade-offs because there are conflicts between these ecosystem services. There are also synergies that we need to consider and how to accommodate those. And that's exactly what this seminar, our webinar, will be about. So trying to explain it in maybe a slightly more complicated manner is to focus on these 4 ecosystem services in the middle. It doesn't matter if we put the connotation forest to it or not. We have different functions from nature, environmental, economic, social functions that we need as human beings to continue to survive on the planet Earth. There are a lot of trends going on at the moment, and I'm sure you haven't missed any of them. We have biodiversity loss, we have climate change mitigation, we have deforestation in some parts of the world, we have forest degradation in some parts of the world, we have population growth, we have increasing use of digital tools, digitalization that might affect how we use or manage our forests. And not the least to say the green transformation, the bioeconomy transformation that we're currently in. We also have several challenges that we need to account for. We have a long discussion about sustainability, of course, and bioeconomy is also a challenge per se. How do we become more green? How do we replace the fossil fuels and become more renewable? We also have competing land use where we want to use land for different purposes. And sometimes we also see multiple land use that we use the same land for different purposes. And particularly connected to forest, we have the forest health, which is also important to make sure that we have a sustainable future forest to rely on. In the bottom part of this illustration, we see ourselves, the human being, society, well-being, and there we have market and non-market values that we benefit from forest. And if we break it down, essentially it's about maybe 3 major parts. One is the biomass. It doesn't matter if we use it for bioenergy, if we use it for biofuels, if we produce products, or whatever we use the biomass for. But that's something that we subtract from the forest. We also can find food and fodder in the forest, or any other natural resource for that matter. And that's essential for our future well-being and surviving. So food is something that we need to discuss as well as biomass use. We can also think about different chemicals or materials that we can use by breaking down biomass in different ways. The challenge when we talk about bioeconomy, we talk a lot about becoming more green, becoming more independent of fossil fuels. What people sometimes tend to forget is the beauty of biomaterials where we can reuse, recycle, and use it over and over again. So the forest per se is circular already in its setting, but we just have to recognize that. So the key challenge is that we need to figure out how do we then maximize these synergies that we find, and how do we manage the trade-offs between these differences, and who makes these choices. I also included this illustration, which just reminding us of the natural circularity of the forest value chain. And here we can see all different kinds of services that I already explained. But just to keep that in mind, maybe it's circular, or maybe it's more like a spiral, that we can use some of the resources over and over again, specifically if we're wise about it. Bioeconomy then, well, you know this quote. This is from the EU Bioeconomy Strategy from 2012. Production of renewable biological resources and the conversion of these resources and waste streams into value-added products. That's what we think about when we think about bioeconomy. And then just recently, we have the new Bioeconomy Strategy, where the emphasis is not only on the renewability of resources and how we use the different streams from biomass, but also discussing competitiveness. about investments, about being efficient, circular, thinking about how we can position ourselves in the international market, leading the way forward for bio-based manufacturing, chemicals, food, biotech, etc., etc. So the new strategy is shifting from not only putting emphasis on the production per se or the resources per se, but also what we do with it. I also like to just remind us a little bit about what policies do we have to relate to in terms, and now I took the EU level, what policies do we have to relate to? And I'm not going through all of these in detail because I'm sure that you're very familiar with most of these. What I want to stress here is the fact that we see more and more policies coming relating to forests, relating to how we use the natural resources one way or another. And as you just review the dates, you see we have many more escalations of different policies relating to forest, even though there is no official common forest policy on the EU level. A lot is connected to forests and how we deal with forests. So just let me give you a quick example from some of the research that I've been working with. And this is an example of a policy analysis we did looking into different policies connected to forest, to climate, to biodiversity, energy, and bioeconomy. So we reviewed different policies from in different case studies in Europe. Germany was one case, Spain was another, Estonia and Sweden was involved in this. So what we see when we analyze policy is that policies are not very well recognizing all of these trade-offs, or maybe I should say they are recognizing them, but they're not handling the conflicts. So, for instance, we have a very strong conflict between biomass production and nature protection. And it goes without saying, really, that when we're harvesting biomass, we also affect the ecological system. But the policy is pointing toward that and pointing that we need to make trade-offs, but not how. There's also conflicts or trade-offs needed between socioeconomic functions of the use of natural resources or the forest, and the fact that we need to be more green, to be more toward the bioeconomy. And the conflict, it might sound a little bit strange that there is a conflict, but of course, if we biomass harvest, or if we use the forest for different purposes, it might also affect how we as human beings can use the forest for recreational purposes, or just the fact that we know that it's there. On the other side, the same research also points that there is synergies between some policies, and climate change mitigation and nature protection is another issue where the policy is actually pointing toward the importance of supporting one another when it comes to biodiversity protection and climate change mitigation. So with that said, I'm just coming back to this picture again, wrapping up my short talk. So the forest has a strong role in bioeconomy, but we have competing ecosystem services. We need to figure out how do we handle biomass production versus ecosystem sustainability? How do we handle bioeconomy expansion versus biodiversity conservation? Or climate matters and harvesting for substitution? How do we make sure that policies are coherent? And how do we make sure that the forest can strongly support bioeconomy, circularity, and sustainability by a coherent, stronger policy in both the EU level and the national level, supporting one another? So that's the key takeaways message from my side is we need to respect the ecological limits, integrate circularity principles in policy, consider the whole ecosystem and how we make those trade-offs, but also how we balance these conflicting goals. And that's what I hope that we can discuss in this future discussion. So thank you for that. And then I stop sharing my screen, I hope. And then I leave the floor to Baptiste for your presentation from the French point of view. The floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Camilla. Hi, everyone. In France, we adopted a national bioeconomy strategy in 2017. The objective was to support ecological and energy transition while creating new economic opportunities for agriculture, forestry, fisheries, and rural territories. From the outset, France adopted a broad vision of the bioeconomy. Rather than focusing on a single sector or a single end use, the strategy sought to consider the interaction between food and feed, materials, energy, and ecosystemic services. This reflects a specific feature of the French approach. In France, bioeconomy is not only about replacing fossil resources, you said before, Camille. It is also about creating value from biomass while ensuring sustainability, maintaining productive capacities, and preserving natural resources. The strategy therefore aims to provide a common framework bringing together different sectors and different public policies around a shared vision of biomass production and use. In other words, the French approach was always been a systemic approach, looking at the whole biomass systems and the links between its different components. This figure, I think, illustrates this integrated approach. Bioeconomy is not limited to forest biomass. Obviously, in France, it encompasses agricultural biomass, forest biomass, marine and aquaculture biomass, as well as biowaste. These different biomass resources contribute to a wide range of value chain, including food and feed, I already said it, bio-based products and materials, biofuels, we have a lot of biofuels in France, bioenergy and biogas. This diversity reflects the structure of French biomass production and explains why cooperation across sectors is particularly important. The French strategy is therefore built around four main priorities. The first is increasing biomass production while preserving natural resources and ecosystem functions. The second is developing markets for bio-based products and creating value from innovation, very important, and this is a challenge of bioeconomy, I think. The third is supporting an innovative and competitive bioeconomy capable of contributing to industrial development and the ecological transition. And the fourth is engaging society and stakeholders, because the development of the bioeconomy requires dialogue and shared understanding of both opportunities and constraints. One important point is that these priorities apply across sectors. The objective is not to develop agricultural bioeconomy and forest bioeconomy separately, but rather to understand and manage the connection between them. So our current focus in France, one of the key challenges, as other countries, is biomass availability. Current assessment suggests that in France, by 2030-35, biomass demand could exceed available domestic resources in several sectors, particularly in the context of decarbonization objectives. This challenge naturally raises questions about interaction between agriculture and forest bioeconomies and about how to make the best use of limited biomass resources. It also raises questions about balancing different needs. At the same time, I think we should be cautious about overly rigid approaches. Many bioeconomy value chains rely on synergies between primary products, co-products, and byproducts. Considering uses separately can sometimes lead to unintended consequences. For France, the challenge is therefore not only one of allocation, but also one of maintaining coherence across the whole system. That's quite difficult. To address these issues, France is strengthening coordination mechanisms. First, through the creation of a national platform bringing together public agencies in order to improve biomass data, modeling, and forecasting. Second, through the Bioeconomy Intersectoral Technical Committee, which brings together primary producer, industry, and administration. Recent work has reinforced the participation of forest stakeholders, reflecting the growing importance of interaction between agriculture and forest biomass. For us, better knowledge, better dialogue, and stronger coordination will be essential to address future biomass constraints while preserving the strengths of a diversified and sustainable bioeconomy. To conclude my presentation, the French experience suggests that the future challenges cannot be addressed through a sector-by-sector only approach. A systemic and integrated vision of biomass resources will be increasingly necessary to manage scarcity, preserve synergies between value chains, and ensure the long-term sustainability of the European bioeconomy. Thank you very much. I think I'm in time and not too long.
Thank you very much for an interesting presentation, Baptiste. I think I will come back with a few questions for you later. So now we leave the floor to George to discuss the Austrian case. The floor is yours.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Camilla, and also warm welcome to all participants from my side. So once again, thank you very much for the invitation to share with you the Austrians' approach to bioeconomy. We do have, as Austria is also a forest country like Sweden, we have a long tradition of sustainable forest management, and our forests are really deeply connected. No, it doesn't work. Our forests are really deeply connected to our economy, our culture, and also to our understanding of intergenerational responsibility. And we therefore really believe from the forest sector and wood sector that we must transition from a fossil-based economy to a bio-based economy. And this has been also the driving force for the Austrian Wood Initiative. The Austrian Wood Initiative is an initiative which was established in 2021, and its objective is to efficient and innovative use of wood in the context of circular bioeconomy. And within this Austrian Food Initiative, we also have some money available from 2021 to 2027, 107 million euro, where we also take activities and measures regarding bioeconomy measures at the different levels. So we look at the national level. We have established Bioeconomy Austria at the pan-European level, the wood policy platform, WoodPop, and at the global level, the country organization-led initiative. I'm explaining a little bit more now. So the Bioeconomy Austria, the platform which we established within the Austrian Wood Initiative at the national level, is a platform bringing together all local and regional bioeconomy networks and initiatives in Austria. So far, over 300 partner organizations are connected within this platform on behalf of bioeconomy. And one task is also to implement and further develop the Austrian bioeconomy strategy. At the pan-European level, you might have heard about that. We initiated together with Finland in 2021 the European Wood Policy Platform, It's a government-driven process, and the idea is to strengthen the role of wood as a renewable resource in the context of circular bioeconomy. There are about 27 countries so far actively involved in this platform, and over 45 stakeholder organizations with around 250 experts taking part in different working groups, expert level groups, and so forth. And one major outcome of this wood BOP platform was the policy paper on wood-based circular bioeconomy for a sustainable Europe. Here, this is a negotiated paper where countries call for action on different areas relevant to forest and wood-based bioeconomy, starting with the forest itself. So it's about wood sourcing and supply chain management. It's about circularity, the circular use of wood. It's about wood processing, manufacturing. It's about construction, buildings, wood buildings. It's about developing smart and novel wood uses, skills and education, communication awareness, and also all the governance, the regulatory and legal framework in the context of bioeconomy and wood use. So this is one achievement at the pan-European level. And as I've said, we are really looking at different levels, pushing forest and wood-based bioeconomy, as we see a very much interlinkage between local, regional, national, pan-European and global level. So we initiated together with Australia, Japan, Turkey, FAO, IUFRO, and the UNFF Secretariat, the so-called country and organization-led initiative on sustainable forest-based bioeconomy approaches. And so far we have had several highlights. One highlight was the global webinar series together with FAO, supported by Austria and Finland. We conducted 6 webinars on the same questions we are dealing today and the same issues we are dealing today at this webinar. There is output, recordings and summary reports on this aspects of forest-based bioeconomy. So if you would like to learn more, please go back to these documents. And we also worked very closely with the scientific community, in this case with IUFRO and the IUFRO network, where we also produced and financed 6 policy science briefs on these very issues regarding forest-based bioeconomy. And we had a global summit on advancing sustainable forest-based bioeconomy in February this year, which was also a platform where we dealt with all these inputs from above and more. And the main output of this global summit is the Vienna call for action for a sustainable forest-based bioeconomy, and a co-chair summary with a lot of recommendations, also covering today's questions. This was also already presented at the last session of the United Nations Forum on Forests, and will be also presented at the 28th session of the Committee on Forests in September this year in Rome. And over 60 countries and over 100 organizations took part in this global summit, which was a really major success. And there are the 5 main focal areas identified within this at this summit, which is also summarized in the Vienna call for action for sustainable forest-based bioeconomy, which is to take leadership for systemic transformation, which is to ensure an inclusive bioeconomy. It's about inclusiveness, and it's about mobilizing also targeted financial resources. And the fourth is creating enabling conditions, the framework conditions of sustainable forest-based bioeconomy. And it's about building collaborative partnerships at all levels. So if you would like to learn more about that, there are also everything available at the homepages and web pages. And coming back to the original question about the efficient use of resources in the future bioeconomy, how to make trade-offs, I think the answers are already partly there. We try to tackle that at different levels in Austria, pan-Europe level and global level. So we just have to make best use out of that what's already there and further develop that in different contexts. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much, George, for the Austrian perspective. Very interesting, and I'll come back with a question to you as well shortly. But first, we will listen to Linda and the Swedish perspective. The floor is yours.
Thank you for inviting to this webinar and for the topic that you chose. And I think it's a very, very important topic from the Swedish government side. We have put a lot of work into working on bioeconomy, and it's important for us, of course. See if I can change pictures as well. So just to I will give you a few perspectives, just generally from the Swedish side on bioeconomy, how I view it, and also a little bit more focus on the forest-based, of course, and some future looking. But a bit like Georg said as well, I mean, why is it important to us? Well, it contributes the bioeconomy to several policy objectives. Not the least, as already been said, the bioeconomy is central in our climate work. If we are going to have a fossil-free society, we need to have bio-based resources, as simple as that. But at the same time, it does create jobs, economic growth, and increases our competitiveness. So I think it's also a very good example where you can see that actually climate and competitiveness can go hand in hand. That's how we view it. And also, of course, highlighting a bit the rural and regional development aspects of it. We are talking about the valorization of locally produced biomass, and several Swedish regions have their own bioeconomy strategies, actually. And lastly, in today's geopolitical context, bioeconomy do have, I think, we can admit, an important role, also increasingly important for security and preparedness perspective, by decreasing unilateral import dependencies, decreases our vulnerabilities, and ensure the supply of raw materials, goods, energy. So that is why we have it also as a high priority. And of course, I think it's also important to remember that when we talk about bioeconomy, it does, of course, cover several sectors. It's the agriculture, food, it's the fishery and aquaculture, as well as the forest. But of course, from a Swedish perspective, the forest-based bioeconomy is quite dominant, as we're such a forested country, as also Austria said. But I'm also glad today that we put focus on resource efficiency, because for us as well, I believe that's really central, but it's in many ways also the foundation of the bioeconomy to strive for resource efficiency, and circularity is really an important part of the bioeconomy. And I think that with innovation, research, and not the least increased cross-sectoral cooperation, we can really reach even more resource efficiency. And I think I will give some examples later, if I have time, on cross-sectoral cooperation as a possibility to reach more resource efficiency. And also, as was mentioned about the topic of the sustainability of the bioeconomy. I mean, sustainability, of course, must be the foundation. It is the foundation for bioeconomy. And I think that one good thing in Europe, at least, that we have, is that we have national laws for different sectors and so on, and also for us EU member states, we have EU laws as well that sets the framework for how we source biomass in a sustainable way in many ways. And here the sustainable forest management definition of Forest Europe is really an important part of that work. For instance, the Swedish Forestry Act, the basis for that is that it's production and environment on equal footing. And we have actively managed our forests, but also doubled the growing stock the past 100 years, but also increased the area of protected forests. So I think that's also important to take, have in the back of your mind in discussion on bioeconomy. But if I'm looking a bit more focused on the forest-based bioeconomy in Sweden, I mean, we have almost 70% of our land is forest, so that's why it is, of course, so central, but also good to remember that a lot of the farmers, they also own forest. So there are some cross-sectorial connections also there. I would say that one of our strengths is that, especially from a resource efficiency perspective, it is that we have the full value chain within a country. We have the primary production, but we do also have the reason and innovation. We have the traditional uses, but we have the forefront innovation and research and biorefineries. And also that our value chain, forest value chain, that has been developed over centuries. And there is very close cooperation within the value chains. And that means that this results in that resource efficient circular flows. It really promoted that. So the residues in one part of the value chain can become resources in another part. So it's a very complex system, but we do get out things like bio-based batteries in the end of it. So it's I think that's very interesting to see how we can use them for so many different things. And as you can understand, then perhaps that the Swedish forest-based sector, it's doing well. We don't subsidize this or use support schemes, even if, of course, it's also affected by challenges that all sectors are facing in the financial situations and so. But just some numbers might be interesting. It makes up 9 to 12% of the total jobs, export, turnover, and value added in the Swedish forest industry, Swedish industry in general. It employs indirectly and directly 140,000 people are employed in it. And as I said, it has a regional importance. In some regions, 8% have jobs connected to forest. So that's also good to remember. And if we look a little bit more forward for the development of the forest-based bioeconomy and how we view that, well, one thing that is important as we see is to that we need an enabling environment for the sector to develop in. It needs long-term, predictable and stable conditions. And that is important if we're going to have more innovation in the sector, because that's what we need as well, to be more resource efficient and come up with new solutions and new ways of using residues, for instance. And we are making and major investments are made in innovation, not least from companies, but also universities and research institutes. One interesting example I think that we just started up in Sweden is the Biosociety, which is a co-financed research innovation program by the private and the public sector, is also and implemented in that way. So that is something that I think could be quite, just to mention an example. But if we look ahead to the future as well a bit, I mean, preventing forest damage is important aspects, as well as climate adaptation, because if we are going to have biomass in the future, we must make sure that these are some challenges, I think, to really take carefully, to deal with carefully. And I think the Forest Europe's ministerial declaration, Stockholm Declaration, signed just recently, is quite good, with a resilient forest for resilient societies. And as I said, lastly, and I think actually I do have time to just mention a couple of examples of cross-sectoral cooperation. One I think is quite interesting is that in the village Frövi, there is a pulp mill that the excess heat of pulp mills are used for heating up a tomato plant. And they had also planned to connect it to aquaculture for shrimps and use the manure for nutrients in the tomato growing. But unfortunately, that large part did not work for different sectors. And I also know there are examples where you use residues from the forest industry to develop fish feed. So from one sector to another. And I just wanted to finish with these two a little more interesting examples, perhaps, and ready to take questions. Thank you, Camilla.
Thank you very much, Linda, and thank you to the three of you for interesting presentations. There are so many questions you could ask and to put forward, but I think we'll start with this one. I think all of you discussed or mentioned it's important to engage society, to engage stakeholders in the bioeconomy transformation, and at least myself had reflected a little bit as I started introducing with the policy, that the policy are not always coherent, and there are already conflicts built into policy making. So how do you have any examples of how do we then engage society and stakeholders? Because I truly believe that if we don't have consumers, we have stakeholders involved in bioeconomy transformation, we will never become a more bio-based society. So have you any examples? So maybe Baptiste, you'd like to start?
Yes, yes, thank you for the question. I mentioned earlier the Bioeconomy Intersectoral Technical Committee that we created in 2020 to share with all stakeholders, primary producer, industrial administration, because we have several ministries involved in the bioeconomy. So I think the main challenge is maybe not, even if it's difficult to share this common vision of bioeconomy with stakeholders. The main challenge could be to share it with the society. Because it's very theoretical. Sorry, it's not easy to say for French. And it's conceptual bioeconomy. So if you say to people that bioeconomy is there for creating jobs, bio-based products, to scale up industries, that works. But you have to show effects. If bioeconomy is just about words, it could be not match very well with a general dialogue with society. I hope it's clear.
Well, thank you very much for very interesting. George, would you like to continue?
Thank you very much. Yes. Okay, maybe I start with the Vienna call for action. The second area is to ensure an inclusive bioeconomy. This is something which is was very, very much highlighted, and which is very important if it comes to a sustainable bioeconomy, because sustainably implies that it is also social sustainable. That means the inclusiveness of people and stakeholder groups is of utmost importance. And so taking up this second goal of the Vienna call for action, we can also, of course, come back to Austria. As I said, we have a bioeconomy strategy. It was 2016 where we had our first bioeconomy strategy, and we also, when we developed the bioeconomy strategy, we also did it with a huge participation process. So, but we know that if you once you have a strategy ahead, and then how to implement it and to follow on that, and it's also not only important to implement or to include people, stakeholders, organizations at the beginning, but also during the implementation phase. So that's the reason why we have also financed and supported the Bioeconomy Austria platform, as I presented. And this Bioeconomy Austria platform now, up till now, covers over 300 stakeholder organizations and institutions to really further develop the bioeconomy strategy and to look into the implementation of bioeconomy in Austria. Of course, it's much broader. It's not only forest and wood-based bioeconomy, it's agriculture and blue economy. But the major part is forest-based bioeconomy, as we also financing it from the forest sector. And we, for example, once a year, we have an Austrian Bioeconomy Summit where we invite all stakeholder groups for a 2 days and 1 and 2 days summits to exchange, to collaborate on further ideas. And between the summits, we have stakeholder working groups to further elaborate on the diverse measures and activities in regarding bioeconomy. So we on purpose do quite a lot to get this inclusiveness secured within bioeconomy implementation activities.
Well, thank you very much. Very interesting to hear about the Austrian case. What about Sweden, Linda? How do we in Sweden call for action?
I think that in one way, also connecting a bit to what Baptiste said, I think we need perhaps to demystify the bioeconomy as well. It's very conceptual, but in principle is what we've done for a very, very long time. We're talking about quite traditional sectors, and of course they are developing as everything is, and areas where we find this, and then we use the concept of bioeconomy to describe a bioeconomy based on that source. So in that sense, it can be, then you can also talk about, I mean, we have different forests then I would say that we can use. We have, I mean, last week we had a yearly meeting in our national forest program, where you also gather a lot of stakeholders to discuss the questions there. And there are, of course, discussions going on in different forests and perhaps adapted to the formats that's best suited to them, where you know the stakeholders and you have built up trust and so on. So I think that's one thing to think of. And And of course, it's always a challenge when you're talking cross-sectoral how to do it. I'm not saying it's not a challenge. We are coordinating, for instance, across ministries here in Sweden, and that is also, of course, always time-consuming. But that I think is one way to really try to look at what you have as well. Use that.
Well, good. Thank you very much for that. And I hear that a lot of activities going on in all countries, and I completely agree with the discussion. I think that you've had it in Austria as well, is what is really bioeconomy and what do we mean by saying, and defining words is something that I as a researcher worked quite a lot on, just breaking down and to understand what we're really talking about. So now if we just journey to 2050, the year 2050, where we are indeed in a bioeconomy situation. We have implemented a Fit for 55 package where we have managed to reduce our climate effects. We use the resources a lot more efficiently, and we're really smart about it. So what did we do today to end up where we will want to be in 2050? What actions are needed now today to have this nice future where we are sustainable, that we are circular, that we are indeed bioeconomy, where we handle by climate change mitigation, etc. So how do we, what do we need to do today? Maybe Linda would like to start.
Yes, I can start with that question, and touched upon it a little bit before. Of course, it is very difficult. It feels like these days to talk about the future. I think we experienced the past years that things and priorities that goes as well with it can change quite rapidly due to how things changes. That's technological development as well as geopolitical, of course. But one thing, I mean, the two things I mentioned already, I mean, we can already now work on how to make our forest resilient for the future by working with forest damages, working with climate adaptation. I mean, forestry is really this long-term process. And then, of course, I hope we continue to advance in these areas that we already tried to set and go even further when it comes to resource efficiency, innovation, and that we have taken some steps really further to really becoming more fossil free. And I think that also discussions like this is part of getting us there somehow, starting these dialogues also in a European level.
Mm-hmm. Well, thank you. George, would you like to continue?
Okay, thank you very much. Yes, as Linda said, it's looking ahead is quite challenging. As every day, a new challenge will arrive, and we have to face. But I think what we are doing now, it's already a good approach. So we have to face the obstacles. We have to face the issues related to bioeconomy and all the related questions in a structural way and at all levels. So not only, I would say, at the global level or the European level, but much more so at the local level, because bioeconomy, for me, it's a really local issue. And that's the reason why it's also very difficult, if you mentioned that before, Camilla, to break it down, to define bioeconomy. And for me and for us, it's much more to have this common vision of a fossil-free society than a definition what is bioeconomy, because it's so difficult, especially as it is a local and regional economy approach, and we should not, limit this by defining and with all these indicators and reporting. So this might water down these initiatives taking place at the local and regional level, so we really have to look anyway at all levels that what we are doing to merge and to connect the different levels, local, regional, and global, and also face and come up with this vision more than a definition, I would say. And what makes me positive is that there are some changes in the EU policy also can be observed. So forest-based bioeconomy is not only anymore as a sectoral issue. It's a really seen about how we shape the future of our general economy and our general society and even our territories. So it's a really transformation agenda, And we really should also, get aware that it's much more than only wood, timber, and forests, but this is a much bigger picture we have to cover from our perspectives. And this is, of course, challenging and demanding, but I guess as we have Forest Europe with all this definition on sustainable forest management, the criteria, so we have a lot to offer, and we really should be very firm to offer what has been already developed within our sector. That would be also all this Forest Europe outcomes so far. So thank you very much.
Thank you for that. Very interesting. Baptiste, what is the French take on the future?
Yes, difficult question, but I think we have three levels. First, I think we need a realistic understanding of biomass availability and future demands, both, obviously. And biomass is renewable, but it's not unlimited. So it's very important for the bioeconomy in the future. Second, we need to accelerate investment and industrial deployment. I said it earlier. We have in Europe strong research capacities, but we must turn innovation into concrete projects and competitive value chains. And third, we discussed it a bit earlier. We need to maintain trust. I mean, involving stakeholders, creating value for primary producers, and ensuring that the bioeconomy delivers visible benefits on the ground. George said it. I really appreciate what you said about local issues and that topic. Here are my 3 points. Thank you very much.
Well, thank you very much for that. So it's starting the time goes quickly, so the hour has almost passed. But before we leave, I'd just like to give the floor one more time for our 3 panelists with just one short sentence of what you'd like to send to our audience today. And you pick your key message. So just one sentence. And we can start with George this time.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, I think for me it's that we need to broaden our perspective and recognize that bioeconomy is not only an environment policy instrument, but rather also a key component of general industrial strategy.
Thank you. Linda?
Yes, then I would say that, well, the bioeconomy is already here. It already exists, but there is a great potential to broaden it even more. So we have a lot of things we can do forwards.
Thank you. And finally, Baptiste.
The bioeconomy will succeed if it remains concrete, competitive, and grounded in real biomass resources.
Well, thank you very much for all of this input. And I learned a lot about specifically Sweden, Austria, and France, but also the discussion is very fruitful. And I think this is very important that we keep on talking of what we are doing, really. To me, as a researcher, policy is something that I've been analyzing for quite some time. We see the word bioeconomy every here and there. Usually it's not defined, which makes it challenging to understand what are we really talking about. And I think definitely what you're emphasized today is that we need engagement and we need to just talk about what we want to achieve. And as we start to talk about it, we will also build trust for the process per se. The forest is, as far as I can see from policy documents, pinpointed as one of the key players in the bioeconomy transformation. But as you said, as our wise panelists said several times, we also need to be wise about how we use this resource. It's a limited resource. It's renewable, but it's also limited. So we need to be careful. And coming back to the title, how do we make those trade-offs? Well, that's really what we need to discuss in the future. So with that, I thank the three panelists very much for your participation and your discussion. And thank you, Johan, for inviting us to have this interesting lunch discussion. Over to you, Johan.
Thank you. Thanks a lot, Camilla. And also thank the audience and all the speakers for engaging and attending today. We will share the presentations afterwards, so you have some documentation. Last but not least, I want to advertise our next webinar on the 22nd of September. Then we will discuss biodiversity, will be the theme. And we'll have more information about that upcoming webinar soon on Forest Europe's website. So with those words, thank you again, and we will close this webinar. Thanks for listening.
Thank you. Goodbye.
Goodbye.